Hey Trinity, it's really great to see you again. If you are watching this and we have not yet met, my name is Paul Hunter and I'm the responsible business enablement lead here at Kin Carta. And I am super stoked to sit down with the one and only Trinity Lloyd for a couple minutes here because she's one of my favorite humans at Google. Trinity and I share this special experience of turning sort of pure hobby started passions of climate action into our careers. And as the sales and strategy lead for the energy transition and sustainability practice at Google Cloud, Trinity leverages Google's vast inventory of digital sustainability solutions and principles to position organizations to capture emerging market opportunities while advancing sustainability. One of my very favorite things about Trinity is her passion for creating shared value for a group of stakeholders that also includes the planet. And she has this awesome belief that doing what's right and doing what's profitable are not mutually exclusive. They are interdependent, and the critical enabler of both of these things is technology. So with that introduction, thank you so much for being here, Trinity.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me. It's great.
Awesome. So I want to start out with a question for those who are sort of just dipping their toes into the sustainability world and who are just starting to more deeply understand climate change and how it's affecting our planet and our world in the digital innovation space. So my first question is, how would you describe this moment that we're in from either a climate change perspective, a market impact perspective, or a combination of the two?
I would describe it as critical, rapidly accelerating, very exciting, and also just sort of a culmination of a lot of different things coming together at once. So it's an exciting time to be in this space, but things are moving so rapidly and so quickly. It's almost like everything went really slowly and then just rapid advancement and acceleration, because we've reached a really beyond critical point in terms of climate. But it's almost like the whole world is sort of waking up at once, and now everybody's got their foot on the gas, pardon the analogy, and is really trying to respond quickly and figure out how to kind of change the way they do business overnight.
Yeah, definitely. I feel you on both the exciting and the critical piece. I always say, like, my coin catchphrase is "What a time to be alive," and it really is like what a time to be alive right now. Especially given this release of the report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change a few weeks ago. This moment can sometimes feel like we're on a crest of a massive wave that's about to break or is breaking, and that can sometimes be really paralyzing and intimidating. And it goes to show that using every ounce of bandwidth efficiently and correctly matters. So in that vein, what types of businesses have a responsibility to reduce their carbon emissions, and where are the greatest opportunities for impact in your eyes?
Yep. All businesses and organizations and individuals have a responsibility and should be prioritizing or focusing in some way, and both from a responsibility and accountability perspective, but also from an opportunity perspective. And if I were going to select any particular industry or vertical, I would say certainly, government entities and organizations, obviously, because policy is so important. But prior to policy, energy companies and mining companies have an opportunity and a responsibility, but also they have a unique opportunity to really guide and transform all of industry, and their expertise and their position in the value chain as being high and upstream gives them a unique perspective and an ability to sort of set a precedent that could be followed downstream all the way through to the consumer and then back upstream again, which is really what we need.
Yeah, definitely. It's so critical right now. The accountability piece is just something that's so critical right now. On that thread, what industries are really trailblazing in sustainability right now?
Well, I think interestingly enough, that oil and gas is really focused right now on what they can do and how they can pivot and transform for varying reasons behind that. But their expertise in hydrocarbons is actually really, really needed, and it's critical that technology organizations help them kind of create that pivot and that transformation and use the expertise that they have, the infrastructure that they have to decarbonize our planet. And so it's really, from my perspective, it's energy, utilities, oil and gas, and then it's also technology, because none of those organizations can pivot rapidly without the use of technology and digital transformation, AI, ML, et cetera. So those are the hot buttons.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Technology is just kind of this massive accelerator right now, as it always has been, but particularly right now in this moment that we're in. What are some of the sustainability challenges that companies are facing today, and what role does technology play in helping them overcome these?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier when you talked about how overwhelming it can seem, because the biggest challenge for everybody is that it is incredibly complex. There's lots of disparate data sets. There's a lack of business tools and processes in place that bring these kind of concepts and this criteria together. There's lack of standards because there's so many different standards, there's so many different methodologies that it can be challenged to really, form a logical equation from one organization or one industry to the next. There's a lack of kind of focus in terms of where does everybody start. It's incredibly overwhelming. Sustainability has been seen as a bottom line cost instead of a top line opportunity. So it hasn't been prioritized. And then there's these opaque value chains that if you're trying to solve sustainability, you need contextual data, you need all of the contextual insights, you need the world's data, and you need proprietary data. And it's hard to measure across an entire supply chain, which is how you need to measure sustainability and understand it. Particularly for business, if you can't see it and you can't trace it. And so the opaque, siloed data and industry kind of way that we built our businesses and society is making it an even more complex challenge. And that's the opportunity that technology has, right? We have to open up communication across our suppliers and customers in real time. We have to take all these different data components and integrate them. We have to be able to track and make decisions with all of this new criteria involved. We have to connect our value chains and make them circular. And we have to augment human capabilities, because if a human is making each decision or having to be involved in each decision, we're not going fast enough, because we have as we all know, quite a time crunch, right? So we need to accelerate innovation, we need to accelerate transparency, and we need to build an open sort of framework to do that. And that's where technology comes in.
That was amazing. Yeah, it covers everything. I think one of my very favorite topics is around opacity of supply chains, and just that consumers are demanding transparency now and have been for probably about a decade now. But consumers are really just starting to ask more questions about where their products are coming from. And I'm excited to see the role that data and technology will play in offering transparency to consumers and shifting those purchasing decisions. What positions at a company play a strategic role in the adoption of technology for advancing sustainability and other ESG, CSR initiatives?
Well, it's interesting. It's definitely for the critical piece that technology plays. It's not typically within the technology part of the organization that they're focused on it. It's typically in the CFO or the chief marketing or the CEO realm from a priority perspective. And it may trickle down, or there may be some CTO or CIO responsibility somewhere, but the main portion of the responsibility is either at the CEO and CFO level, particularly if they're very focused on this. And in a new position that we're starting to see pop up in a lot of organizations, which is the chief sustainability or chief innovation and sustainability officer. Those are really, if there is an established person with that role, whether that's the title or not, that's the change agent that will prioritize kind of all the business operational and technology shifts that have to happen in an organization and in a supply chain for that company to transform towards sustainability. So in varying degrees of priority, but I would say if an organization has that role established, and if it either reports to the CEO or the CFO, they're pretty serious, and they're going to have a significant budget and authority to make significant change.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super insightful. It's interesting how kind of the blend of technology and sustainability sometimes strays away from that CTO, like CTO level. And I just find that very interesting. Another thing I'm curious about, Kin Carta is one of Google's premier cloud partners, and I'm curious what role can or what role do partnerships play in creating a more just, sustainable world?
I'm really glad you asked that, because I think how we typically think about business and sort of commercial models, how do we make profit or sell things, solve things, we think about them in sort of a small kind of a silo. And what's really unique and different about sustainability is there really is enough room for everyone. And we need very radical collaboration and partnerships. We need to connect ecosystems. We need to encourage innovation in every organization. And we probably still won't meet the demands of the market fast enough. So the way that I see it is any partner that understands this and wants to kind of go on this journey with us is an excellent partner. And I obviously see that with Kin Carta, or I wouldn't be here. But I do think that what's particularly interesting is if even Google, who has probably more data than anybody in the world, even Google and all of the people that we have at Google, we could not innovate fast enough. We could not collaborate fast enough. We could not connect other organizations fast enough. We absolutely rely on important and strategic partners to help kind of build that ecosystem and deliver those innovative solutions, concepts, and capabilities to other organizations.
Yeah, I always love what you say about collaboration and just the fact that it's absolutely crucial to rise to this monumental challenge in front of us. I totally agree. Hopping back to kind of the realm of solutions, what's one of your favorite examples of a way that technology has increased sustainability, whether it be for a company or a geographic group or some other sort of collection of humans, if you will?
Gosh, there's so many. I find new projects that we've done here every day, and I get all welled up and kind of emotional about them because there's so many incredible things, and it's really hard for me to pick one. But one that I just always kind of gravitate back towards, whether it's necessarily the most impactful for the world or not, it just it kind of gets me right in the feelers. I have a strong affinity to whales and ocean wildlife from South Florida, and we have a project here that really focused on leveraging ocean sounds and AI/ML to understand migration patterns of whales to reduce sort of human impact on reducing whale populations, which is just a beautiful way that you could use technology in a really innovative way to solve something that seemed very unknown and difficult and complex. There's lots of other things from developing tools for safety for women to just accessibility and all the tools that Google brings to market. I love Google's philosophy of building for every single user. Like if you build for everyone, not the majority, but everyone, then sort of the profitability will find its way to you, and that's a core philosophy, and you can see that in the things that we build and bring to market. And so it would be hard for me to pick just one because there's so many amazing stories, but I do love the whale one because I think that's probably the first thing that got me sort of inspired about the environment and the world around us. Was my third grade teacher telling me about the whales. So I love that story.
Yeah, definitely. One of my very favorite things about working in sustainability is just how broad it extends. One of the hardest things to dispel is like sustainability does not just mean the environment, like it extends into the economy and society. And That's one of the coolest things about working in sustainability. So I feel you. There are just too many great examples to count, which is a good problem to have for sure.
Whatever gets you
Switching gears
inspired.
just oh yeah, definitely. Whatever gets you inspired for sure. Switching gears just a little bit, sometimes convincing business leaders to invest heavily in sustainability can be a challenge because in these systems in which we operate, a demonstration of value is imperative to gain investment in new and often uncertain initiatives. So how would you describe the value that a robust sustainability plan brings to business stakeholders?
Well, it depends on the type of organization. If they are a publicly traded company, then the ESG perspective is always, should be kind of top of mind. Do you, if you want to drive shareholder value, if you want to drive investor confidence, analyst confidence, then you need a very strong and robust strategy. And organizations like the Task Force for Climate-Related Disclosures are really kind of forcing the hand of organizations to develop that strategy because they're really pressing that this isn't a nice to have, right? This is a requirement, and we want to know that you have real, true, reliable metrics, not sort of self-reported, self-inflated kind of positions, right? So if they're publicly traded, I would say that the investor focus is really a kind of easy place to start. And I think that the secondary piece, whether they're publicly traded or not, is developing circular economies is profitable, right? Reusing materials is profitable. Whoever their customers are, whether it's a supply, whether they're midway through the supply chain or the very end, and their customers are consumers, it's being demanded of them. And so if they don't respond and they don't build a robust strategy, they will certainly incur risk, and their customers, their suppliers will move towards organizations that are doing that. But also, kind of the flip side of that is, but if they capture the opportunity, if they differentiate themselves in their space, in their market, and they bring things to market first, they have an incredible opportunity. It's almost like .com or the smartphone is coming to market, and he who gets the first app wins, right? And so if they can understand that, and there's lots of documentation out there to show the opportunity that's coming, that's how they could really differentiate and even capture new markets. And then ultimately, depending on the type of organization they are, particularly if there's some of those organizations higher in the value chain, their data is incredibly valuable. And so helping them understand that data can be a revenue stream, just like other parts of their business, if they open it up and share it and help solve some sustainability challenges, then hopefully between one of those or all of those, you've helped kind of explain what the value is. It isn't just a bottom line cost, it is absolutely a top line opportunity.
Yeah, I always love that quote of, it's not a bottom line cost, it's a top line opportunity. And it's really interesting to see the role that sustainability can play in mitigating the reputational risks that climate change presents. So say you've proven out the value to a business in these ways for all stakeholders, and they're going to invest. What types of outcomes can a business expect from investing in a digitally driven sustainability initiative?
Well, I guess in any number of ways. There's a brand impact and value, particularly if they are tracking and verifying or certifying what they're accomplishing or doing. There is an investor value, right? So how they're ranked or scored from an ESG perspective. There's an operational value because it drives greater efficiency. There's more intelligence within their organization. They have better data internally. It also drives opportunity across their supply chain to make improvements, optimize, reduce cost. So optimization in general doesn't always have an emissions or sustainability value, but it often does. And sustainability always does, because you are connecting, you are reusing, you are recycling, and you are localizing. So you have lots and lots of different ways to reduce your cost. And then we've already articulated all the other ways how you will help show your value. So it's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, totally. I mean, connecting it back to that opportunity portion, you mentioned being able to put a premium on goods and services that are certified as sustainable.
Right.
Like that in and of itself is this no-brainer. And I come from this sort of behavioral economics background, so I deeply recognize the power that sustainability messaging has in shifting purchasing decisions for consumers, and that's just so exciting. I think it's interesting too, because in our world here at Kin Carta, sustainability messaging can even shift our decisions in qualifying or disqualifying streams of work and choosing who we work with. But there is a point where messaging can cross a line and become somewhat of an overpromise or over-exaggeration, if you will. So I'm curious, what signs can people look out for when trying to decipher if an organization is enthusiastically verbal about sustainability or whether they are truly invested in impact?
Well, it always comes down to what kind of metrics come behind it. What are the certifications? What were the methodologies, and how open and transparent is it? Big giant claims are one thing, but really digging into what's behind those claims, you can usually vet out fairly quickly. Looking at an organization's sustainability report tells you a lot about where they actually are and what they've actually accomplished and how serious they are about it. And I think more and more savviness is coming to kind of the broad market landscape where you can just kind of start to tell there's nothing really behind this, and it's an announcement, and that actually ends up doing more harm than good. And certainly you need to keep in mind kind of the source, right? Is there credibility in this brand or this announcement, or is this an organization that maybe doesn't have credibility in this space and is kind of jumping on the bandwagon? Just because they don't have credibility doesn't mean it's not a credible endeavor. But that's when you want to definitely dig into the metrics and what's behind it. And I know I've mentioned this many times, but it's critical that we open up and are transparent with reporting and sustainability data, because there's really no way to know for sure until we have a transparent and open reporting standard, which we have lots of those reporting standards, which means we have none, right? So driving towards standardization, driving towards openness and traceability, and any organization that is committed to that, or at least attempting to be committed to that, and shifting away from that sort of protecting my data and to opening up my reporting and how I got to these numbers, that's a serious organization that actually is trying to create change.
Yeah, again, back to that theme of transparency. I think it's going to be interesting to see how transparency and verified data sort of transforms the accreditation space around sustainability. It's going to be really interesting to see over the next couple of years, for sure.
Me too.
Okay, I have two more questions. First of the last two is, when it comes to climate change, the journey towards saliency can often be long and complicated. So how can you tell that a company is ready to invest in a sustainable digital initiative?
The first way that I would identify, have they made any public commitments and commitments that require auditing or certification? Where does the sustainability organization line in the org chart of that company or organization? Are they aligned to the CFO or the CEO? Those are typically the biggest kind of flags in terms of who is prioritizing it and how serious are they, and then how aggressive their commitments are. Some of the longer term commitments are great that they've made them, and we're glad that they have, but probably mean they don't really know how to start or where to start. That's okay. We're here to help them accelerate that. But you probably have a little bit of a heavier lift in terms of kind of guiding them in that direction. If they have a very aggressive timeline and they're aligned in the way that we were talking about, they probably have significant budget. They probably have significant authority. They probably at least have an idea of a plan, and now need somebody to help them execute it.
Yeah, definitely. I love all of that. Okay, I have one last question for today, and this one's kind of ad hoc, and I'm curious what you're going to say. If you could sum up one concise call to action for business leaders around the world, what would that call to action be?
Radical data collaboration. That's it. Simple. Share it.
Simple, clear, concise. All right, well, thank you so much for being our guest today, and thanks for your brilliance and advocacy as always. We'll talk to you next time.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you so much. It's always great to chat with you all, and looking forward to working with you lots and lots and changing the world together.